planting conversations so that we can create more conversation. That's arrow.net, ARROE.net. We are unplugged and totally uncut with Matthew Fray. Your book should come with a soundtrack, or either that or it has to be connected to a Batman episode or something. Meanwhile, Batman picked up a book. This is how your marriage ends. What will Batman do next?
That's fantastic. Thank you for that.
One of the things that I find so interesting about this is because to me it's a book of study, because I'm a wedding officiant, and my goal is to bring people together. I love the way that you're able to use words to help keep people in touch with actuality, what really is going to happen or what could happen.
I really appreciate that. That's awesome. I didn't know coming into this conversation that you were a wedding officiant. And I haven't been to that many weddings since my marriage ended. Maybe I've been divorced now approximately 9 years, and I've probably been to 5 to 7 weddings, and maybe a third of them I felt like the officiant nailed it, just absolutely said the things that I wish. I'm not sure the bride and the groom took them to heart,
right,
as they were getting married, but I didn't hear things like that in the lead up to my marriage. I don't want to blame anybody. I really don't. It's nobody's fault that I was a bad husband but me. But I have this strong belief that people enter relationships ill-equipped to navigate them effectively, not because they're bad people, not because they're negligent. They just we don't know, I think, what'll hurt us later. And I think that's a scary idea.
Well, and how about that age-old thing that we keep hearing? Well, we just grew apart. Okay, why? Why? I ask people why. What happened that you just grew apart? I don't understand that theory.
Right. I think that, and thank you. That's a great point. I don't say that enough, and I probably should adopt it more, because that is a common refrain of people who end their relationships. And what's interesting to me is I do think about this idea of drifting apart, and the way that I visualize it is to imagine a simple line graph, a mathematical line graph, horizontal line, and then a dot is on one end to the left and another dot's on one end to the right. Those two dots are you and your relationship partner. And so you can measure the distance between. You could sort of chart it over time if you wanted to. And I believe that most relationships on their wedding day, those two dots are really close together, and that over time they sort of progressively move away from each other, which I suppose would be this idea of quote unquote growing apart, if you will. But I think that's this absence of restoring trust, of repairing harm as it happens day in and day out. And I think the reason why is because people don't calculate it to be harmful. And the things, I think, as you know, that I worry about in the relationship coaching work I do, and the things that I write about in this book, are we erode trust, and those dots are moving apart in our blind spots. We're not actively trying to erode trust, and we're frankly not even doing things that our brains communicate to us. Our partner will trust us less after we do this. We don't say that. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't do it again. But nonetheless, conversations about a dish by the sink, or laundry in the bedroom, or what position the toilet seat is when one of us walks in, or just all sorts of little, what might seem benign and inconsequential to most of us, to me, our capacity for dismissing the aggrieved party in that conversation, which was my wife in my marriage. She'd come to me and say, Matt, this condition, this situation hurts me. It's bothering me. It's upsetting me. If I didn't agree that she should think or feel what she thought and felt, she never, ever got heard, understood.
Right.
I never repaired that moment mindfully. Today, that's the work. Today, if she comes to me, hypothetically, I'm not married anymore, but if I could go back in time, if she'd come to me and say, Matt, it hurts me that this piece of laundry, that you leave it here, that's how little you respect me and care about me. I might not agree that she should feel that way because I threw my jeans on this piece of furniture in our bedroom. I might not agree with that idea, but I'm damn sure going to care that my wife is hurt by something.
You're absolutely right. The little things tend to be the fire starters, and then all of a sudden it goes in a different direction, and then you get to the real problem, and then you're huffing and puffing, and nobody's talking anymore.
We're not very good at successfully navigating the conversation where one person feels wronged or hurt in some way. That conversation so frequently goes south in a relationship. And that is the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, of my coaching work is trying to, and I'm usually working with men, I'm trying to help them succeed in that conversation. And that's a real game changer, like that in and of itself. When your person comes to you and says, hey, a thing is wrong, when you can navigate that conversation with your partner walking away, feeling heard and understood and as if they're loved and cared for and respected, that's such a game changer, where I think most of us walk away and they don't feel that way. And then we're like, well, they suck. Like, this is their problem. And, we're going to go play a video game or watch a movie or a ball game or whatever we're going to go do. And just like, I can't win with her. I can't win with that person. I'm just going to go away. But the me today desperately wants to understand why something that seems so minor to me matters to them. And if I do that work, they can trust me to not actively or negligently sort of like do those same things that'll hurt them tomorrow, next week, and next month. That's the difference between I can trust this person versus I can't trust this person.
Right. One of the things that you cover inside your book, This Is How Your Marriage Ends, is I love the way that you put the limelight on if she feels like your mom, don't expect that the relationship to be strong in other areas.
Yeah. I have this very strong belief, and again, I'm sorry that we're sort of picking on men here, and I don't want to, because I really want to defend like the intentions of most of these guys. I really truly believe in this idea of blind spots and accidentally causing harm. But yes, if you show up in your relationship in a manner where the math results of your actions results in your wife feeling not dissimilar from how she feels with like your kids, you do things your kids do, she does things for you that she does for your kids. If that's the relationship dynamic, then I think a healthy adult might develop parent-child-like feelings about one another, and then it destroys intimacy. There's nothing sexy about, doing the things. Wiping, urine from a toilet seat, for example, might be an example of that. There's so many things. But it just, if I like to talk about it as not your intentions, but the math result. The math result of your behavior is a lot like what your kids do to your wife. I don't think she's going to think it's hot and want to sleep with you anymore.
Right. Your book comes out in a very interesting time period because, the name of the book first of all, is This Is How Your Marriage Ends. Will Smith this past weekend, boy, there are people taking sides, both sides of the thing here. Because a lot of people would be offended if somebody took a pot shot at my wife.
Yes, sir. I hate that too because I have, for as long as I can remember, adored Will Smith and held him up in the highest of esteem. And I'm not going to be on record demonizing the man.
Right.
He's a human being. I sort of thought, here's what I've said to anybody who's asked me. I wouldn't have told the joke. I also wouldn't have hit the person who told the joke.
Yep.
And that's the best way I know how to say it. I'm not going to pass judgment on either of them.
Yeah.
But I even shared a Will Smith quote from his fabulous memoir, which came out like a few months ago, just called Will, where he says, I think people get divorced too soon before they've extracted the lessons from the relationship that will prevent them from repeating those same problems in future relationships. And to me, that was such a wise observation. And so I really hold the man up in high regard. And then we've got this incident that everybody talked about, probably still are, but I'm not involved in today's news cycle. And it's really something else. I regret that happened for everybody.
Absolutely. One of the things that I found as a learning tool as well, being a decent person doesn't always mean you're a great person. I love the way that you're very brave and honest, and I don't want to say exposing, but just telling the truth. Just because you're decent doesn't mean you're a good person.
I think, and I think that the more specific idea is I can be an amazing person and still lack relational skills, which makes me a bad relationship partner. And the way that I jokingly discuss that in the book is to talk about how amazing my grandmother is and how she has impeccable character. She's the sweetest person in the world. Now, anybody who thinks differently is a liar or somebody who's never met her maybe. But don't hire my grandma to build a skyscraper or to build a bridge or to pilot an aircraft or to do any number of things that my grandmother lacks the knowledge and skills to do effectively. And so it's ridiculous to defend the quality of your husbandry or you as a spouse or relationship partner on the merits that you're a good person. That you may be awesome at being a human being. That doesn't mean that the math result of your behavior equals I feel loved and cared for so I can trust you. from your relationship partner. And I think if people learn how to think about it that way, they won't be so defensive. And not being defensive is so critical to repairing people who hurt in relationships. I'm the king of defending myself when somebody acts like something I did hurt them. My default instinct is absolutely to defend myself. So I have to do a lot of work to be like, I'm going to care more about them than I'm going to care about trying to defend my character here. And that's a skill. It's a thing you practice until it becomes a habit.
You are such a great teacher, Matthew, and I definitely mean that. And in the way that you took a spot in your life that obviously was very tough, and you're basically saying, "Hey, look, I went through it. I can help teach you to move around it." And I'm just so proud of you for being so open.
It's an extraordinarily flattering comment, and I can't thank you enough for saying it, and also just for having me today. Thank you for that.
Well, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future, Matthew. You got one, like I said, you've got a story. You teach. You open people's hearts and their thinking process and stuff like that. This can't end here, buddy.
Hey, I'm at your disposal, sir. Like, if so long as I don't have a existing calendar conflict, I'd love to talk to you and continue this conversation. That'd be great.
Excellent. Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
I'm going to do my best. Thank you so much for the opportunity.